Welcome back to the channel. This week we're really gonna give it our best shot to try to get this bed mounted on our chassis. So first things first, get some measurements taken so we'll know where to do some trimming on that bed structure. So what those measurements mean to us is what we're gonna have to cut out of this rear structure. So certainly this arched up section will have to go out, and I mean honestly it probably just needs to be cut flush with this mount, and we'll cut it all the way across here. That'll still leave some of this for structural integrity, which, to be honest, we're not going to be loading or having a lot of payload in the back of this truck, but it'll still be sufficient for anybody's normal use. The good news is we'll be able to leave 100% of this rear panel, which is kind of visible from the back of the truck. I didn't want to get into cutting it anyway. The fuel tank doesn't stick out far enough past the frame for that to be a challenge for us. That should be all we need to cut away. Now I'll get a different wheel on that grinder and clean up some of these sharp edges. But also it looks like someone loaded way too much in this truck bed at one point, and it's kind of got a sag in here. So we need to sort of try to level that back out. You see there's a lot of curvature towards the center. We're gonna need to get that as straight as we can, because that fuel door is gonna be about right here. And we're gonna need as much room as we can to mount the latch, and we'll also probably put a little spring-loaded magnetic section here. So we're gonna need the clearance to get those latches mounted and for the bed to look good. That'd be pretty close. Now we just need to get some help here so we can set this bed back on the truck. We are still going to need to do additional trimming. This is where we cut out, but you can see that fuel cap is right there. So we'll probably have to notch more into this structure. Otherwise, we're not going to have room to get the fuel nozzle in there. So we'll probably end up cutting it back past these spot welds, which won't leave us an exceptional amount of room. Probably end up having this bed floor cut right on this back edge, and that's where our flap will be to access our fuel cap. I've crawled underneath and marked from the top and been back and forth several times to make sure that we like what we're cutting here. Should be far enough back to get out of the way of the little hump that's behind the fuel filler neck. And the Mustang tank, these caps are a little off center. This will still give us plenty of opening to access that, but I like keeping the cut lines inside these grooves, and then we're going to cut it right at the seam where the floor meets the rear section of the cab. The plan is to use these parts from Hagen, and they come in Hagen fuel filler assemblies if you buy them from Summit or Speedway or other retailers. What I want to do is essentially weld this hinge on the bottom side of the bed and to this section that we removed, weld that in place. Then we'll use this magnetic stop, so when we close it, it'll stay down, and then you can just press here and it'll pop the back of this up, and then we can swing it up out of the way to put fuel in the truck. Seems to work pretty well. Now on to this rear suspension. So I took Dave's advice at the Team 321, which is who we got the independent rear suspension mounting kit from. Also shipped with these mounting tabs for the shocks. And picked up these 33033 Monroe shocks. They are made in the USA, just like me. At full extension, they're 14 3/4, and at fully compressed length, they are 10 inches. So, and that's from center eye to center eye. So we really want to weld these tabs on the frame where this shock's gonna sit at, say, 12.5 inches. And that gives us the 2.5 inches of compression and still gives us 2.25 inches of extension in case, you know, you unload the suspension. I've made my mark. With the suspension loaded, I'll know where to weld those tabs when I take the tire off and have it jacked up. I probably should have waited until the bed was off to fully weld those in, but whatever. So now we've got our bed back off. You guys may remember this cart that we built when we were doing the square body project, so make it to come back to the channel. Anyway, the bed's sitting on there. We've got the shocks mounted, the brackets are fully welded. I'll unbolt those and clean up the welds a little and then paint them black, so that'll clean up really nice. Also, we have the sway bar in. You guys may have remembered a few episodes back where we cut down those end links, and those ended up working out perfectly. So sway bar is done, shocks are done, rear suspension is complete. I'll put a permanent wire for the fuel pump and then run the wire for that sending unit, and those came with that Speedway harness that we showed you in a couple of videos back. So the next step of the process is to start working this bed. And the plan is to prep it, set it up on its end, and prep the bottom, and then Raptor line inside the bed and the bottom side of it all at once. There's a lot less work for me, so the next time the bed goes on the truck, that's where it can live. So I appreciate you guys watching again. We'll see you next week.